What's crazy is I don't really ever watch the news, but I just kept hearing that Colorado has the most vaccinated people,
Really?
like per state, like percentage wise. I think it was at like 61.8% or something crazy of us are all vaccinated here in Colorado.
Hmm. That is actually really interesting.
Just made me curious, like I was like, well, what does that even mean? Like how many people are really vaccinated, and whatever,
Right.
all the COVID numbers, because this whole COVID thing, everybody's been talking about numbers, this, numbers, that. And I was just really curious. So I kind of started jumping down like a rabbit hole of like anything that I can think of and was just looking at different numbers. So, I mean, I guess before we get into this, welcome to the podcast. My
Yeah.
name is Anthony. I am one of the hosts of the show. This is the Sancha and Sancho podcast, and always to my left.
Yes. What's up? It is Cindy, the co-host.
And already blows my mind. We're already in November.
Jeez.
So we are flying through this year. We are flying through this podcast. I swear, it feels like we're recording a lot now. I don't really know what's going on, but
Mhm.
it feels really good. So we definitely wouldn't be able to do this without you guys and without our sponsors. So definitely go check out our sponsors. We'll leave their links down in the description below. So definitely go check that out. That's one of the best ways to support us. Specifically, we're brought to you by the Farm Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We are also brought to you by Legendary Car Care.
Mhm. Submission Nutrition and the Barber Shop.
So definitely go check those out. While you're at it, go check out our website. Another really good way for you guys to support us. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of just get right into this. And if you guys find any value in this or find any of it interesting, I hope you guys are smashing that like button. Share it to anybody that you think it'd get any sort of value out of anything that we may or may not say. I'm not really
Mhm.
sure.
And make sure you subscribe as well.
And hit that little bell over there to get notifications every time we drop a new podcast like this one. So, yeah, let me pull it up really quick because I don't want to mess any of this up. But a lot of this was really interesting. So, when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine, it looks like Colorado is still on top. It's like 61.8% of the population is fully vaccinated, which is pretty crazy. But if you look at the doses, it says there was only 7.82 million doses given to Colorado, and California got 54.7 million doses.
Hmm.
That's like way more doses. But
That's that's actually really interesting because um I mean, do you think that now going into the winter, do you think
mm,
COVID is going to spike back up?
I don't know. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I don't remember if it did or didn't last winter because I remember that's what they were saying.
Well, last year, that's when everybody was getting sick. That's when I was sick
True.
last year
Oh, actually, we got COVID
during Thanksgiving.
during Thanksgiving. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
Yeah. So
Wow, it's already
this
been a
is
year.
actually one thing I heard actually today was so I guess plastic surgeons.
Yeah.
Okay. Plastic surgeons are now canceling all appointments.
What?
Yes.
Do you mean?
And it's supposedly due to COVID. And I think what the governor is trying to do is I'm assuming that they're trying to kind of have like beds available just in case of an event of an emergency like a COVID outbreak or something like that.
What?
Yeah. So um I actually had somebody who had scheduled a an appointment at a plastic surgeon and they were going to get their breast done.
Mm-hmm.
So they so they had everything all aligned, they had everything all set up. They were supposed to get everything all started like literally next week. But then they end up getting a call saying that, hey, everything is canceled and we don't know when we'll get you booked.
That's weird.
Yeah. And it's, it's kind of crazy because I feel like most of the times when you're going through a process like that, it's a big process. You're going under surgery. It doesn't matter, what it is that you're getting done, or even if you have to, get done something like something serious, whatever the case might be. Like, it's just crazy the fact that they are closing down all appointments all across the board. And
that is kind of weird. It kind of just makes you think, that's, for me, that's what kind of makes it all like kind of suspicious.
It is very suspicious.
But I'm not even trying to get all like weird about it. But so I was looking at these numbers. It looks like Colorado has the most vaccinated people as far as population percentage. And then it's California. And then it's Texas. And then it's Florida. And then it's New York. So kind of cool. I was kind of just looking at those. But then I was curious about the death toll. I know it's kind of dark. And I pulled up coronavirus death toll. And this one's kind of weird because I remember kind of in the middle of COVID, people were saying that even if people were dying of other causes, that they were still putting COVID down as like their related death.
Right.
Look, and honestly, I really don't know
what the whole background thing is with that.
I really don't know. Right? Who am I to say?
I mean, actually, I heard that it was easier to file under, I don't know. I heard something that it was easier to file all deaths, unfortunately, under COVID because they got some sort of,
like a spiff?
Not like a spiff, but they would get accommodated in some sort of way. Yeah,
I'm not really sure. But literally currently, as of right now, it looks like 5,036,176 people have died with COVID-related deaths. That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. But at the same time, is it all due to COVID?
Whether or not. I feel like if it's related to it, is that close enough to fucking say that it's a part of that toll? Regardless, say that it's a little skewed and it's half of that. That's 2.5 million people. That's still a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of people, right? So that's kind of what started this little like mind fuck I kind of had going on. So I started looking at this, right? I started pulling up wars and like how many people died in some of like the old crazy wars that we had. Check this out. So for the Iraqi war, it's kind of hard to add this one up because there's different areas that it counts. But for example, it says the Iraqi war, 405,000 to 654,000 people died. But it also says war in Afghanistan, 212,000. That's less than 1 million.
I mean, that's good because,
right? Well, right. I'm not saying it's bad, right?
Right.
But you're thinking if that's a war that lasted 20 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And less than 1 million people died. And we're talking about COVID came in 2 years' time and killed that many people. Yeah. That's pretty crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And I was trying to find some of the craziest wars. And some of the craziest numbers in here are just like 868,000. That's a lot of people. Right here, the Mughal-Maratha Wars, 5 million plus. So that's a war that killed just about as many people as coronavirus has.
Wow.
In a war? That's that's super, super crazy. The 30 Years' War, it says 4 million to 12 million.
Jeez.
That's such a big range. That's 8 million of leeway there. You go up from that one, it says the transition. Sorry, I can't say that right. The transition from Ming to Xing looks like in the China versus Ming China dynasty. Not really sure how to say that right, but it says 25 million plus people died.
What?
right? That's mind blowing. How
That
like
is a
how is
little
that
bit
even
insane.
possible, right? So then I started looking up some other numbers. So on the topic of war, I looked up World War II,
Okay.
right? Think Hitler, think of everybody that was held captive in all the prison
Gosh, no.
camps.
That
Think of,
was probably, that's like just a horrible
yeah,
time. That's,
genocide,
oh no.
massacres, bombings, disease, starvation, like all that. Literally the worst of the worst. And honestly, really close to our time. That wasn't that long ago.
What year was that?
That was in like that was between what, the 30s and the 40s? Okay, let's see here.
Hmm.
World War II, an estimated total of 70 to 85 million people died.
My gosh, that is horrible.
Yeah, 1940. Is- That's not that long ago. It was 80 years ago.
I mean, I guess compared to other wars, it is like pretty recent, but
That's scary.
yeah, I don't like to
Have you
think
seen
about that.
what's that movie, The Boy in Striped Pajamas? Or
I
read the
think,
book or any of it?
yeah, I think I've like watched the
The movie?
movie.
Basically it's where this this younger boy moves in with his dad, and he's like a general or some big wig in regard to Hitler, and they move to like this new house that's close to like this prison camp. But the kid doesn't know it's a prison camp, so he's like walking around the property, the new house that they go to, and he finds like a big fence. On the other side of the fence, he sees kids and like people like all in there, like in prison, whatever. And one of the kids is kind of close to the fence, and he kind of ends up being friends with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
The kid ends up saying that he's like, "Oh, I can't find my dad in here. Like I lost him." He's like, "Oh, I'll come in and I'll help you."
And he gets trapped in there.
He gets trapped in there, right?
So bad.
Yeah, spoiler alert for sure if you haven't seen that. My bad. But then I started getting really curious, right? How many babies do you think are born every day?
That's a good question. I don't know exact numbers here, but I'm assuming kind of a lot.
It says
Is this in the U.S.?
worldwide.
Oh, that, yeah, I'm sure a lot.
A lot, right? Would you say more than 100,000?
Yes,
Would you say more than a million?
maybe
A million's a lot.
a million is a lot, possibly if it's in the whole entire world.
All right. Worldwide, around 385,000 babies are born each day.
Oh wow,
So a little more than a quarter million, less than 500,000. In the United States, in 2019, 10,000 babies were born each day.
wow, 10,000
10,000
babies.
babies a day. In the US,
That's really crazy.
that's a lot of babies. So if 385,000 babies are born each day, how many people do you think die each day?
I don't know.
So if you think 10,000 babies are born on average each day in the US, it says on average 8,000 people die a day.
What? Really?
So we're pumping out more babies than people are dying.
I guess if anything, I feel like that just kind of narrows down to the people that are working in the hospitals or in that type of industry. Like, I'm sure it's a tough industry to be in.
What do you mean?
Well,
In regard to like deaths and births?
I mean, even with COVID, anything that has to do with, I feel like with all those numbers there, I feel like it all kind of comes down to the hospital. It's like, where does everybody go? Whether they die, in most cases, um, when they're having babies, or when they're sick. So it's just like respect to everybody in that field. Definitely not must be easy.
That definitely seems very chaotic.
Yeah.
How many people do you think are homeless in America? If it's pretty bad.
I mean, I'm sure any state has a group of homeless people.
So there's 385,000 babies born a year. There's 580,000 people experiencing homelessness just in America.
Wow. Is that because, see, I feel like I don't, I feel like to a point I can understand maybe being in circumstances where you do have to be homeless, but I feel like in other circumstances, it could be to a point. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I feel like everybody has different journeys, right? Everybody has different reasonings as to what led them to that point.
It is pretty crazy because it's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
And I don't really understand it. I don't understand how people get there. And that's okay that I don't understand it. It's not that I'm like being judgy. I mean, I am a little, I'm being honest. But it's just like confusing. But it's surprising that there's that many people that are homeless. More people are homeless than are born each year, which is pretty wild. So then I started looking into addiction, like opioids, like pills.
Hmm.
And it says that more than 200,000 U.S. cases a year happen and are related to opioid addiction. So if 385,000 babies are born a year, it's like 200,000 people, new cases every year, people getting addicted to opioids.
Yeah, that's really insane. Now, what about kids that are missing? You know, I feel like a lot of times like people are so caught up on, you know, figuring out or like just the United States alone, right? It's like figuring out or counting how many people are vaccinated. How come nobody really brings much attention to kids missing every year, every day?
So I looked that up. So if 385,000 babies are born every year worldwide, only 10,000 in the US on average. Just in the US alone, in the United States, an estimated 460,000 children are reported missing every year.
Like what?
That's almost 500,000 kids.
Where? And see, I this is where it's just messed up because nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows what happens.
Well, I mean,
Nobody
somebody knows.
investigates too
Oh,
much
man.
to it, to finding out or looking for these kids.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I'm sure it's not like
Like nobody's caring.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that we're
Right.
just doing nothing about it. I don't think that's the case. I'm sure just on the sidelines and just looking at the bigger picture, it's probably just like, yeah, there's not enough being done because that's a lot of kids.
Mhm. I feel like it's even to a point where I don't know. I mean, because I feel like some of that can relay over to possibly like sex trafficking or, you know, all these crazy things that we try to kind of avoid or try to think about. But what's really crazy is that sometimes that can happen in our own backyard
Yeah.
and we don't even know.
Well, it's happening here in Greeley, which is crazy because it's not like that. It's not really something I would expect, you know, but I guess it's everywhere. So, but it's definitely something that you got to keep in mind. I mean, as sad as it is, and unfortunate as it is, like that's still a really, really big number.
It's a horrible number.
To totally switch it up here, how many people do you think are subscribed to Netflix?
I would kind of think a lot just because, who doesn't have a Netflix account?
Yeah, everybody and their mother has Netflix. It says right now around 207 million subscribers.
207 million subscribers. Wow. Makes sense, though. It makes sense as to why everybody is converting over to Netflix, like actors.
Was because they control everything. It's streaming. It's so much easier to watch things streamed.
Yeah, it's accessible
we
anywhere.
We don't have cable.
Mm-hmm. It's like, is there any reason for us to get cable? It's like,
No, not
I
really.
feel like nowadays we just have so many different networks or different ways to watch movies, TV shows, that sometimes cable is not necessary.
Right. Well, because then you have to watch it on their time versus
True.
doing it on your time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then you can't forget about another big wig like Amazon. And I looked it up. Amazon employs 950,000 workers in just the U.S.
950,000. Wow.
Yeah, holy cow. Can you imagine paying that many employees?
That's actually really interesting that you bring up Amazon because I was actually watching a video of Jeff, how he was explaining how he started off, obviously Amazon, and the struggles that he faced and how he just like overcame those, and how he got to the point that he is at now. Like whatever business you end up creating, it's just always thinking about the future and just like thinking about how anything could always be better, right? So his message was pretty much saying like that technology is the way to go. So it's like having an online business, having, like Netflix, their online streaming, podcasts, their online streaming, YouTube channels, all of these different platforms that people use or businesses that they create. It all really comes down to
Like accessibility.
And what the future is really going to look like.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Especially, and what's crazy is talking about them. What recently just happened is somebody was, I think, kind of talking, not really talking smack, but Elon Musk, right, is basically the richest man in the world, or projected to be the richest man in the world. I don't know if he is already, whatever. He's worth like $1 trillion. So somebody was kind of like picking at him and saying that his, like a small percentage, like 2% of his stock in Tesla or something was worth $6 billion. And that if he were to sell that and use that $6 billion towards something good like world hunger, that he could basically solve it.
Wow.
So Elon saw it and was like, you know what? I'm down. I'll do it. And if the UN can prove to me and show how they would use the funds, I'll do it.
I mean, that's true to a point because I feel like sometimes you just don't know, or it's like, can you trust people with that much amount of money to do the actual right thing or to put it towards the actual?
It's definitely a big call out because I guess like last year or a couple years ago, they spent $8 billion. The UN spent $8 billion on trying to solve it, and
nothing
obviously
happened.
it's still an issue.
8 billion?
I know,
Wow.
right? Yeah, holy fuck. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe he was just like doing this big call out. Doesn't really make sense. I just thought it was crazy because it's like he's a big player in on like the game of the world. You know, like he is one of the biggest influencers ever. But to make that much of an impact, to be like, you know what, like that's fine. I can make that much of a change if I need to. Let's do it. Just show me how it's going to work. That's amazing. And then talking about Jeff, is Jeff actually stepped in too? Is he just kind of out of the bloom? I don't know if it's because of the whole Elon thing, but he just dropped $2 billion on a different fund, not to the UN, but a different like organization to help for the same kind of reason, like world hunger. So I thought it was very interesting. Two of the most powerful men in the world throwing some money around for some good causes. It's like, that's things that I feel like we need to see. Maybe we should have been able to see that shit in like the middle of COVID when everybody was going buck wild. You know? That's like the stuff that we needed to see. It's just
Right.
crazy to think about.
To have like just
I'm
some
not
sort of hope.
Right. I'm not complaining. Obviously, like that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not like trying to poke at it, but that's a lot of money to be throwing around. But for a good cause like that, it's really, that's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So I thought that was very cool. Let's see here. Another one I looked up was how many people, I literally typed this into Google. You're going to like this one. How many people hate their job?
Oh gosh.
And it says, you aren't alone. 50% of workers dislike their job.
50%.
50%.
Okay, so it's 50-50.
50%. That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. That's
One in
half.
2 people. Yeah. Only half of the people
Like their
out
jobs.
there are doing things that they love to do.
Right.
So that means it is more than possible, right? All right. I mean, if you're looking at it half full,
I mean, I guess.
it means it's definitely possible for you to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
I was listening to a
Definitely
podcast
is.
the other day, and I think it was Lex Friedman, and he was interviewing this guy who's like a judo, like Olympian, like a coach, just really good at judo. And at the end, he was asking him, he was like, you know, like, do you have any advice for anybody, you know, just want to like get started with this or just get started with anything? He's just like, just find something that you like to do that doesn't feel like work. Just whatever that is. And he goes into the story where he was talking about how his wife told him one day that she was like, look, man, like if it means that you're going to be happy, like why aren't you spending more time doing the things that you love? Like it just doesn't make any sense.
I know. And I feel like life is just so short
Right?
to really just not take those risks.
Well, I think the perspective is really like, if I look at my job's really not that bad. Would I rather be doing something else than that job?
Of course.
Well, it depends on what that is, right?
Right.
There's a lot of things out there that I would not do, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's plenty of things I can see myself doing that it would be, I don't want to say fun. I don't want to say more enjoyable. But I want to say easier to do. Not like it's an easier job. That's not what I'm saying. You just shouldn't have to like wake up and be like, you know what? This isn't what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, if it's like really to that point where you're just absolutely miserable and you're like, I hate my life, then change it.
Then just change it up, right?
Yeah. It's as simple as just stepping back, realizing what you need to change, and doing that. Because I feel like life is just about finding your happiness. Because if you're not happy, life is not gonna be so great. Even though if life is like trying its best, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like making it harder than it needs to be, or than it should be. It is short. So because of the job thing, I was looking into college and how many people enroll into college, and it said that In 2019, there was approximately 19.6 million college students.
How much?
19.6 million people were enrolled in college in 2019.
Oh. And what are the numbers now?
2020, 14.6 in public and 5.1 in private. So
What?
kind of just about the same amount of people are in college, but but about 3 times as many people go to public college than private college. Just for reference. But I feel like that's probably what you would expect. You know, it's a lot harder to get into those schools. They're really expensive. It makes sense. But honestly, that's a lot of people. I didn't realize almost 20 million people are in college every year. That's
a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to be going around.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was trying to get away from all the dark stuff, but I guess we're back on this one. I was looking into murder victims by weapons used. What do you think is
a knife?
The most
A gun.
dangerous, the most dangerous weapon? You think it's a gun? What kind of gun?
A handgun.
A handgun? Okay, very good. That is the most dangerous gun or dangerous weapon. What blew my mind was right behind it is knives.
Oh, snap.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, not really, though. I mean, those are two very accessible.
I guess. It just makes me, it's just weird to think
things
about
out
people
there.
killing somebody with a knife in 2021. Like, that's like, come on.
I mean, that is really crazy, but at the same time, it's like, it kind of depends on the situation. Like, are you in the kitchen? What are you going to do? You grab a knife. You have a pocket knife.
You open your
There you
drawer
go.
and grab that Glock really quick.
I don't know.
I just think that's pretty crazy. Another one, the least amount of deaths in 2020 was strangulation. It's like people just don't really choke many people. That's not really common. Choke somebody to death. What was more common was asphyxiation, which is like choking yourself. It's like suicide.
Oh.
Was more common, which I thought was kind of crazy. More people than that die from fire, which is kind of weird because I feel like you don't really ever hear people dying in fire. Like that's like incredibly rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just try to think about it, and I'm like, I feel like it's not really a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
People dying of fire. One that was crazy was blunt objects like clubs and hammers. Around 393 people died. 2020. That's also really savage.
That's really crazy, actually.
But think about how many riots were happening. Do you think that had to do with it? Riots.
Oh.
COVID. 2020. I don't know. That was just like a split-second thought right there. Hands and fists was twice as many as the clubs and hammers.
Interesting.
And more than twice as many hands and fists was the knives. But more than 4 times the knives was the handguns. Pretty crazy.
I could definitely see the handguns for sure.
Not even really close on that one. And then another cool one was what percent of people can play an instrument? It was only 42%. So less
out
than
of 100?
Yeah, so less than half. Less than half of the population can play an instrument. Yeah, I was curious. Does that make you think of anything?
No. I feel like if anything, I feel like the kids missing is what
Yeah, I don't like that
has
one.
always
Almost 500,000
caught my attention. Because that's just not okay.
Yeah, that one's mind-blowing for sure.
But I love how like in our community, there's people out there that are wanting to make those type of changes because there was somebody actually today that I met, and they came in and they were trying to create, or they're in the works of creating, a nonprofit organization by providing shoes to kids in school.
Okay.
And those people are just so inspiring because they're the ones that are actually trying to solve the problem. They're coming up with solutions to the problem.
Right.
Because I know that sometimes...
And that's not easy. That's hard. Yeah.
It's definitely really hard because I know that sometimes, like, whoever's in control of those high numbers that you're talking about, that's a lot of things that you listed off there. It's almost like up to us being a citizen to make those small changes, even if it's so small. But it's like you're still making a change towards something really good.
Yeah, just make a difference.
Yeah.
A lot of those things I just never think about. And it kind of makes me feel a little guilty. But sometimes you just need the perspective, you know?
You definitely sometimes do need the perspective to realize what is going on. Because sometimes you can't go day to day with the blind eye. You have to know what is going on in this world.
Right. Yeah, it's all crazy to think about. But everything really is a numbers game. So I kind of just fell into like a weird rabbit hole and kind of just wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And I hope that this kind of like translates over to you guys listening and know that there are so many different like opportunities out there to literally make something out of nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In regards to like your job, everybody has options.
Well, I hope you guys found something to take into consideration and see how we can make the difference. Because in the end of the day, we are the ones that are creating the future, are the future. And we got to do that for our humanity, for
ourselves,
home,
our family, our community. And if it doesn't give you enough pressure as of today, there are only 59 more days left in the year.
Yikes.
Yeah. 59 days as of today.
So there goes 59 days to turn your life around, start a business, start a new job, start school, whatever it is.
Have a plan, make a plan, work on your plan.
You got 59 days.
Focus on yourself.
Create new goals for the new year.
Yeah, everything above. 59 days. It's going to go by so fast. So strap in. Stick with us. We'll be here. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Like always, we will be back with more episodes.
Stay tuned, amigos.